What's going on, guys? Welcome to the video. We got another delusional Labour MP here, this time from Ilford South, who used to be Jeremy Corbyn's campaign manager, so was likely given a nice safe seat to run in to become an MP as a thank you for getting him the leadership. Because he definitely weren't thanking him for this election campaign, that is for sure. But we hear the usual nonsense from Labour that it's everyone else's fault but the Corbynated chicken, and how their manifesto was popular and they won the argument, which is of course absolute nonsense. You don't win the argument and suffer the biggest defeat since 1935. But anyway, enough of me waffling on, let's hear what he had to say.
Well, let's pick up that with Sam Tarry. He's the new MP for Ilford South, Jeremy Corbyn's former campaign manager. Morning to you. Thanks very much for joining us. So as former campaign manager, do you take the blame for some of what happened?
Look, I managed his second leadership campaign and you know, obviously there's got to be collective responsibility. I think everyone has to reflect, every single individual MP, everyone in the party, about what went wrong. You know, some of the trends in terms of losing support in our sort of former heartland areas are actually long-term patterns. And I think we just need to be honest and use this period of reflection over the next couple of months to really drill down and understand exactly what's gone on. You know, from my point of view, certainly having campaigned across the country and in nearby seats like Dagenham, which were only held by 200 votes, it's quite clear that people did feel that we weren't prepared to respect the referendum, and I think that the time we took to come to one conclusion or the other was also clearly a problem. What I would say though is that a load of aspects of our manifesto were pretty popular with people, but I think the presentation of it perhaps was a problem.
If they were that popular, surely you would have won the election.
But people don't just vote on a manifesto. In this election, they were clearly voting on Brexit. You know, Jeremy Corbyn faced 2 years of total annihilation by the media, so that, you know, in many communities, people believed a load of falsehoods about him, which meant that, you know, for many people, they were angry and not prepared to vote for the Labour Party because of that reason. You know, on the flip side, obviously still hugely popular in cities, hugely popular amongst working class ethnic minority communities. And, you know, Labour's got to work out a way where we don't sort of go in a retrograde step on some issues, but manage to win back the hearts and minds and to be able to give hope and dignity back to those communities that not only voted for Brexit, but then for the first time ever in some of those communities voted for the Conservatives. And the thing that's really interesting is actually the majority of people in work did actually vote for the Labour Party in a lot of those seats. And indeed, I think there's an issue about intergenerational strategy, i.e. the vast amount, the historic numbers of young people voting for the Labour Party, even in some of the seats that we lost.
Your core supporters who have supported for years, people who've never voted
but this is a really important point, because if you look at, even in those seats, a lot of the younger people did vote for Labour, but obviously the older people, particularly pensioners, didn't. So what I'm trying to say is it is a really complex picture. Just saying it was Brexit alone, just saying it was Jeremy alone, isn't actually, you know, going to move us forward. We need to actually have a genuine period of introspection and thinking and look at not only the long-term trends, but how do we build that bridge without losing support in other parts of the country.
Now, I just want you to take in for a minute the absolute garbage that he just came out with there. I mean, it's only anecdotal, but in my experience of talking to people who are Labour voters, or were Labour voters, should I say, is that the manifesto, while some of the things might have been nice to have, it was an impossible dream and would bankrupt the country. It seems most Labour supporters are not as stupid as Jeremy Corbyn and his Marxist scumbag friends think. Like this idiot we have here, who once again follows the same old line of blaming the media for what Jeremy Corbyn has done in his life. It's not the media's fault that Jeremy Corbyn has supported every terrorist organisation on the planet. You can't blame the Telegraph, the Mail, the Mirror, the Sun, the BBC, Sky, or anyone else for that, can you? There is a list out there of, I think it is 50 times that Jeremy Corbyn had done something with terrorists, either entertained them at Parliament, attended rallies with them, laid wreaths for them. As we all know, I've shown it on the channel many times. But there is a list out there somewhere, so if any of you want to find it, you're more than welcome to do that, and have a look at all the times he's been found to be consorting with terrorists, usually openly. So I don't care what this imbecile says, it's not the media, it's Jeremy Corbyn, Brexit, and your batshit crazy manifesto. Like I've said many times, Labour have based their election strategy on what Twitter is telling their dumbass MPs and the momentum activists. They're not paying attention to what people are saying on the door, because anytime an MP comes out and speaks about what actually happens on the door, like Caroline Flint and others who have actually lost their seat. You get the die-hard Corbynista Ramonas either in the shadow cabinet or Momentum saying that that was wrong and it was just Brexit. Corbyn didn't really come up. You've heard it multiple times, and of course we know it's absolute nonsense.
Take you back to something you said right at the beginning of this interview. You said about respecting the referendum. So what impact does that have on your future leader? Does it need to be somebody who's been absolutely vocal in that?
I think that clearly, Brexit is now fully underway. That will be delivered. We will probably have left the European Union with the withdrawal agreement, within the next few months. And so I think we are going to be looking at how do we move beyond that. Obviously holding the government to account in, the future trade deal and all the future agreements with the European Union. So I'm not sure if actually the debate focusing whether it's a Remainer or a Leaver who becomes the leader is going to really help the Labour Party move forward.
And let me tell you how wrong you are. If you attempt to put up any of these ardent Ramonas who have come out and called Leave voters stupid racist gammon or said that we should remain, even though the majority voted to leave, they are going to end up in the same position. People will not forget, especially not up north. They are going to remember that you went against what they voted for once, and you cannot be trusted. It's generational now. And, hopefully, they will pass it on to the generations below them, so they always remember what the current Labour Party is like. Who knows what it will be in the future, but I'm not hopeful that it will change. I expect it will go further left and become an all-out socialist organisation, rather than the centrists that might still remain there now. It's going to be hard left socialists all over the place. That's my opinion. Who knows? We can't predict the future, and the fact that the membership is absolutely full of Corbynistas, I'd say the Labour Party is screwed. 15, 30 years? Who knows, maybe more. Definitely at least 15, I've said it multiple times. But this guy just shows us that we have yet another delusional Labour MP.
I think someone who does
it
understand...
need a clean slate in some ways, do you think? And if so, you may not think that's the case, who would you be backing at this point?
Look, I've not made my mind up at all. But I think someone who's got this kind of powerful, common touch, someone who can really kind of speak to people in northern working class communities.
You mean the common touch like Boris Johnson, the old Etonian? That guy? Because he seems to have the common touch. Yet, your so-called socialist leader who's actually richer than Boris Johnson and was brought up in a manor house and went to private school seems to have lost complete touch with reality, let alone the common man or woman. And given the interview you have given to the BBC so far, I would suggest that they are completely out of touch and, like I've said, are going to remain there. Much like their opinion on the EU. Against what the people want and only thinking of themselves and their inner city voters, who won't get them into government, let me tell you that. But it seems Labour are too stupid to understand that, which is good news for us, of course. That interview has just showed us that Labour are still not learning lessons 5 days after the humiliating defeat that they witnessed last Thursday. They're still stuck on blaming the media and everyone else for the complete catastrophe that was their election campaign, and of course, their leader, manifesto, and Brexit policies. But this guy here was Jeremy Corbyn's campaign manager, so he was never going to shit on the Corbynated chicken. He's here to defend him and sound as drab and boring as possible so that no one tears them apart. Because of course, Labour Party, they don't need the bad press anymore, do they? They have just been, as I've said, utterly humiliated by the British public and by extension, Boris Johnson and the Tory party. And with the recent news that Boris Johnson is going to enshrine in law that the Brexit extension cannot happen, we are probably going to see a hell of a lot more Ramona tears flowing over the next few days. I will do a dedicated video on that later today, guys. But on that note, I will end this one here. I want to thank our PayPal, Patreon, Subscribestar and YouTube members for supporting the channel, along with everyone who watches my videos. Remember to let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Leave a like, subscribe with the notification bell and share this video as it helps the channel a lot. And I will see you all in the next one.
This Parliament is a dead Parliament. It should no longer sit. It has no moral right to sit on these green benches. They don't like the truth. Twice they have been asked to let the electorate decide upon whether they should continue to sit in their seats, while they block 17.4 million people's votes. This Parliament is a disgrace. But they're too cowardly to give it a go. But the time is coming. The time is coming, Mr. Speaker, when even these turkeys won't be able to prevent Christmas.
There is a pattern consistent throughout history of oppressed people turning on the oppressors, slaves against their owners, the peasantry against the feudal barons, colonies, Mr. Verhofstadt, against their empires, and that is why Britain is leaving. And it doesn't matter which language you use, we are going, and we are glad to be going. We're off.